When I used to do a lot of lecturing in Bolton Street, which was quite a while ago, the students reckoned that I was paid by the mile, not by the hour, so I tend to ramble around the place, so excuse me if I do that. Right, Grange Gorman. The last time I came to a BIM gathering, I felt like I was a gatecrasher, because I was the person in the room that knew the least amount about BIM. And I probably am still in the lower percentile levels, but hopefully my knowledge has gained a little bit in the last 2 years. But certainly the way in which the Grange Gorman project has developed in the last 2 years in relation to BIM has been significant. We have a long way to go, but we're certainly going in the right direction. I'm just wondering, what do I point this at to make it work? Where? Ah, green always works, yeah, okay. Got it. Okay, we talk here about a journey. It's about a BIM journey, and each journey, first of all, you just need to know a little bit of background about it, but it has a starting point, it has a destination, it has a route to get there. And along that journey there are always challenges, and there's always things that you can learn. So what I'm just going to do is to just follow the journey and just to see how we work out. Okay, the background. DIT is not just one organisation. It's several different buildings and it's several different cultures of doing things. It was formed quite a while ago at this stage, back in the early 1990s, and it came out of the VEC with several big colleges. And if you talk to anybody around Dublin, they'll say they're going to DIT Bolton Street, or they're going to DIT Angel Street, or DIT Kevin Street. In fact, I had a conversation with a woman once. She said her son was going to go to one of the DITs, but he wasn't sure which. So it's not seen as one organisation, and it's a major problem for us. In fact, when we started doing this, Grange Gorman was going to try to bring together 39 different locations of DIT into one place. So it's almost like 39 different cultures being brought together. So it's an enormous challenge. And as you can see there, I don't know if anybody's ever counted all the dots on the screen, but I know there's not 39, but there's close enough to it. But we now have it down to about 23, 24. I'm not sure what the number was the last time it was counted. I see Ger Casey down here from the GDA is nodding, so I'm in the right sort of ballpark on that one. Okay, just on the site itself, most people don't realise that Grange Gorman is actually 73 acres or 30 hectares, which is only 1.3 kilometres from the centre of the site to the spire. So it's actually a city centre site, and it's amazing that such an enormous site actually survived the last boom without being built on. But such a big brownfield site did exist, and when DIT needed to consolidate, and also the HSE were working in quite outdated types of facilities, and they needed to be updated, and the local community also was quite poor in relation to the rest of Dublin. A golden opportunity developed to solve all three problems in one go, and that's why the site in Grange Gorman was chosen. In order to do this, you cannot actually just take an organisation like DIT and say that DIT is going to develop this. Well, first of all, there were three different clients there. There was the Department of Education, who needed a school there. There was the HSE, who needed a new hospital. And then there was also DIT. We didn't have the capability to do that. So in 2005, an act went through the Dáil to create an organisation called the Grange Gorman Development Agency. And what that effectively did was to take all of the site from HSE, and remember that this site had been owned by HSE and its predecessors for several years, several centuries even. And even some of those parts of the campus didn't even have a legal title to it. So it took quite a number of years to actually assemble the site and get it handed over first to the GDA. And then what the GDA did was it set about the development of a strategic plan to develop out the whole site. So they put together that strategic plan and then worked out a procurement strategy for each element of the project, and with all of the various different stakeholders, the local people, the organisations themselves, they got that agreed, got it through on board Panola, got a strategic development zone plan approved, and now are setting about building that. And when it's all done, the GDA will give it back to us. And that's going to take quite a while to actually get through. But some of the facts and figures on this is a big, big project. It's not just one project, it's actually a program of works that's going to run probably for 10, maybe 15 years, depending on how we get the finance released for it. But you can see from that slide that's up there, it's about 4.5 times the size of the Dundrum Shopping Centre. And of that, DIT has about 270,000 square metres. When you look at the on-site population which we will have, it's approximately 25,000 students. The population of Wexford is about 20,000 people. So you are looking at bringing something 20% bigger than Wexford into 73 acres, less than a mile north-west of the city centre. So you can imagine the huge change that that's going to cause in the area, but also the scale of what we're trying to do. We're moving an enormous amount of people into this new facility, and we're going to completely change the way in which that part of Dublin works. In doing this, I mentioned the strategic plan, and I also mentioned the strategic development zone plan, which we got through on Board Planola, and what that strategic development plan did, and what the planning, the strategic development plan, sorry, the SDZ did, is that it defined for us all of the different building plots that existed on the 73 acres in relation to their extremities and their heights and their use. So you can see from this here that we have student accommodation which wraps around the playing pitches. We have an educational band which wraps around within that. And then above that you've got the health buildings and the primary school. So it's very well laid out, it's very well structured. But we know now all of the buildings we're going to have to build, and we know their heights, and we know their use. So when we apply for planning permission, and it's, well, when I say we, I'm using the royal we here, it's of course the GDA that applies for planning permission, they find that their discussions and all their work that they have done over all these years is now beginning to pay off, because they are getting their planning permissions through in 8 weeks, almost exclusively in 8 weeks. 24 planning permissions gone in so far, every one of them have got through in 8 weeks. And the only one question that was raised by something that the DCC wanted to put in themselves. But one of the planning applications that has gone through, 55,000 square metres of floor space has got through in 8 weeks. So there's great credit due to the GDA for actually developing a plan which will allow us to do that. So the planning risk has effectively been taken away from the project in doing that. There are huge challenges in this from the point of view of building it out. But one of the big challenges that there is that it's a walled structure. It's enclosed all the way around. And there's lots of old buildings there, some of which were in very, very poor condition, as you can see from the slide right there. And these buildings have got to be brought back to their, not so much their, excuse me, not just their original state, but they certainly have to be brought back to a stage at which they can be used into the future, but also taking into account that they are historic buildings and there are certain things that we can and cannot do with historic buildings. So the starting point then leaves us in a situation where in 2013, when I spoke to you previously, we were in an area where there was a rapidly changing area of knowledge, a rapidly developing area of knowledge in relation to BIM. And what we were trying to do is to catch up on that. The impact of the UK 2016 requirement was beginning to emerge in Ireland, and then the Great Gorman Project Board decided that they were going to adopt BIM. Now they did this despite the fact that we had very limited knowledge of what it was and how to deal with it. Already some of the works packages had been completed. There was no Irish requirement to actually use BIM in the first place, and there was a limited ability of the market to respond. And there certainly were lots of concerns over costs and resources of bringing in a new way of doing things when costs were already going to stretch the available budgets. And the available budgets in 2013 particularly were very, very limited. So the starting point in the pre-2014 works, then you can see, obviously with demolition you're not going to BIM, but we had a hospital which was opened in 2012, and that was built without BIM. The adaptive reuse was done without BIM. And the site infrastructure in public realm, which was in itself an enormous project, was done with Civil 3D, but not with full BIM. Now bear in mind that site infrastructure was going to lay out the entire project, so that every building, every structure which is defined within the Strategic Development Zone plan could then be fitted into the place that was allotted to it on that plan without digging everything up again. That was an enormous project in its own right. So the destination, that's where we were starting out from. Well, what we wanted to do in relation to the BIM strategy is to host and maintain an integrated live building information model for the campus, and to allow that building information model to grow with the campus, and not just grow as the campus physically grows, but as BIM itself grows. At the moment we're talking about level 2. There's been a lot of debate as to whether level 3 will ever happen, but wherever it goes, that we want to make sure that the building information model that we have will actually relate back to what is the cutting edge BIM for the future. We want to be able to use BIM for facilities management, and while BIM has been very much pushed forward as being something that people will use in design and construction, and it was up to that point, up to 2013, BIM in FM is now becoming something which is talked an awful lot more about. And certainly in the last few days we've been talking a lot more about it here. But also there is an importance for DIT to move with this, because DIT sees itself as being one of the primary educators in the whole area of the built environment, in architecture, in engineering, in construction management, and in building services and so on. So it's important that DIT would actually walk the walk and talk the talk and get its project to do what we're educating our students to do. We'd love to have one of these. If we could just walk over, put our hands on and say, bang, there it is. It would be brilliant. They don't exist. They haven't been invented yet. Any of you people out there who are really inventive, if you can come up with one of these, you got it made. You can retire immediately. What we had to do is we had to look at the hard way of doing it. We had to develop new knowledge. We had to develop new skills. We had to find willing participants. We had to find champions within our own organisation and within the organisations that we're working with. We had to find appropriate projects, as in appropriate works packages within our overall programme of works, which we could use to demonstrate that BIM actually does work. We are being driven by various different things outside of the project. For example, with the public-private partnerships procurement, that required that BIM would be part of the project, and developing the strategy actually came in many ways from some of the things, the issues that we had to deal with while we were getting that through. And we also have to get a return on investment. You can't, in the public sector, you can't spend money without somebody saying it's actually worth doing it. So if you go along to the Department of Education and say, well, you know, we're going to procure this new project here, but we want to do it by BIM, and in the procurement we're going to have to get you to put up another 15, 20 grand just to make sure it's done in BIM, they'll say, no, we pay for bricks and mortar, we don't pay for aspirations. So we had got to see that whatever we put into it, we've got to get back on it. So we found that we ended up doing all sorts of things that we never did before. In DIT, sorry, you're going to have to go back to that. Here we go. Yeah, sorry, do the middle one here. In DIT, we never did any of this before. So when you look at what we have here, organisational information requirements, when people came to us and asked us for those, we had no idea what they were talking about. When we started looking at asset information requirements, our asset information, and I know this is it might not sound very good, but what we do with asset information basically is we figure out how much does it depreciate. And other than that, we don't really track it. And when we look then at the other things like asset information management, project information models, and various other things, we had OIRs, AIRs, AIMs, all these acronyms, we had to learn about all these things. And this is extremely difficult for us. Now, of course, what we're doing is we're relying on the GDA to help us out. And Jerry's smiling at this one, but it is actually the truth. And this was prepared, this diagram was actually prepared by a member of the GDA. When I went to him and I said, Pat O'Sullivan is his name, I said, Pat, can you please give me something where I can actually explain what's going on? So that shows where we're actually coming from. And what's happening is, and what's going to be very important, is this person, the information manager. That person is becoming more and more important because most clients do not do this. Most clients only ever do one building in their lives. And they don't want to go to school or go to college or learn a whole load of stuff just so that they can learn all about BIM for that one particular job. They just want it done. Then they want to move in and do what they do in it. So the information manager is going to be extremely important, because the information manager will assist the client to bring everything along this way here so that we get to this and then move on. And that's the bit that's missing here. I sat in something yesterday where I read off all of the acronyms that I had heard in 20 minutes. And the guy that was listening to it said, no. And I said, I'm not finished yet. And I gave him a whole lot of other ones. So, you know, this is a challenge for clients. It's been a huge challenge for us. But we're gradually getting there. And when I say we're gradually getting there, when you look at the works packages that are coming down the tracks now, they're all getting gold stars because they're all going to be BIM projects. And one of the ones that, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about it in just a minute, one of the ones that is just come to fruition, just reached practical completion, is the greenhouse, or the Greenway Hub. But there are so many others as well. They're all going to be BIM projects from now on. And it means that we have moved from that situation 2 years ago, when we didn't really know what we were doing in relation to BIM, to now trying to deliver the entire project, or the entire program of works using BIM. And what you're seeing just here, other than the subsequent work packages, are the ones that are going to bring us up to 2019. So we have a lot of BIM projects coming down the line right now. This one is a building that we're particularly proud of, because this is a level 2 building. And we have some people here from BAM who are involved in this building. And I have to say that hats off to these guys in BAM and in BDP. They have produced a magnificent building. They've produced it to BIM level 2. They've handed it over 2 months ahead of programme. It's on budget, and there were no variations. So when people talk about BIM will save you 20%, what they normally mean is that you have a budget for the job. It will be delivered to the budget. And you won't have the 20% that you spend on the variations and all the fights that you have afterwards. So when people say it saves it, you don't actually save it. It's just that you don't actually have to take it out of someplace else. And the other thing as well that happens when you talk about the savings, where savings are sometimes found, if they're found at all, is in the quality of the building. But we had a number of people walking around that building last Wednesday, and Bill East in particular, he was looking around and he said, wow, this is a university building. This is the sort of thing that we would like to be doing in the States. So, well done, guys. Well done. So, the challenges. Well, the challenges that we have always found in this is that there's a lack of knowledge and a lack of skills. And every time we come along to something like this, we realise something else we don't know. Something else we've got to learn. And it is an iterative thing in that we have to keep going back and we've got to keep topping up those skills. We are trying to make progress in this in a rapidly changing environment. It's not just changing in relation to BIM, but the environment out there is changing as well. The way in which construction is being done is getting better all the time. And the other thing that's happening as well is that we have a lot of work on. As you can see, we're going to build all these things by 2019, plus all the other projects that are going to come down the track. So we're busy already. The GCCC contracts are very restrictive. And I know there was talk before about this morning saying we should leave the contracts alone. This is a very, very difficult contract environment to work with. What happens with a lot of contracts is they require you to be perfect, whereas BIM actually allows you to be imperfect and share that imperfection with somebody else with a view to trying to get a more perfect result at the end of the day. Whereas at the moment, if you produce something which is imperfect, you'll end up in court for it under these contract conditions. So something's got to be done to move that along. Now there are types of contracts, for example, the early collaboration contract form in the GCCC could possibly be adapted. And also the contracts in the UK, the PPC Alliance contracts, they potentially could be adapted. We could use them here as well, potentially as pilots to see would they actually work here. But we've got to do something, because the types of contracts we have at the moment are way too adversarial. There are embedded work practices that people have that they don't want to change. It's worked for the last 20 years, why should I change? Well, the very reason that you've been doing it for the last 20 years is probably a good idea why you should look at it. There's a fear of change. And the other thing that we find as well is that there are exaggerated expectations. That everybody is telling us, you should be doing this, you should be doing that, you should be doing the other. And there is a certain amount of, in the journey, are we there yet? No, we're not. And it will be quite a while before we get there. We're getting there as fast as we can. We're getting there in our own imperfect way, but we are getting there. The reflections of the journey that I would put is that no two organisations start from the same place. So if you start doing this, you can learn some things from DIT, but you won't have started in the same place. You won't have the same type of project, you won't have started in the same type of environment in the construction industry. But one thing that will happen is that your destination will be similar. You'll try to get to the same place. So from that, we will face similar challenges, but we will have gone a different route to get there. Change is very difficult to achieve in a fast-moving environment. And that's something that you always have to be aware of. But contracts have to be more BEM-friendly if we are going to move forward. Most people seem to think that success is a straight line. But really, this is the way it goes. We're here someplace, but it does seem to straighten out a little bit as we go on. We're hoping we're going to get there. Patrick Sullivan tells me that maybe next year we'll be up here. But hopefully we're going to get there. But up to now, what we've done is, we have tried to move it along, we've tried to keep going on a step change. 2 years ago, we were starting at the bottom. We have moved a long way up, the graph has gone that way. If we keep going that way, in another 2 years when we come back, we should have even more success to tell you about. But until then, I think all I can do is just thank you for all that you've given us so far, from CETA in particular, and hope that CETA can help us in getting the rest of the way on that journey. Thank you.